Hello there, I'm Big Alias. How are you? How am I? Not particularly great. I don't know, man. Just kind of overwhelmed. There's a lot going on, but I want to talk about something. Every now and then there's like this topic, pops up that it's something that I feel as though I have to talk about, or that I should talk about, really, because I'm doing a disservice if I don't. But I don't necessarily think that I'd have the best time talking about it, and more importantly, I don't think that it's something that I should have to talk about, and it usually stems from people just being very silly online. Stupid, I guess would be a better word. And it annoys me, and it gets on my nerves, and I feel as though I need to, reach out and say stuff. And I do want to say that I am going to be defending Microsoft and Xbox here, and that I know it's kind of ridiculous feeling that I need to white knight like a billion-dollar company, several billion-dollar company, but it's not that I'm doing that. I don't. I'll get into it. I'll get into the video, hopefully. But Microsoft and Xbox mostly. Some unfortunate things have happened recently at the moment. So obviously, by the looks of it, they had some layoffs recently. Following that, they changed their branding slightly to, and people picked up on this straight away. They've removed the little icon that says Xbox Series consoles and just put console in like the listing for games. So say, for example, it's like Resident Evil 3 is coming to cloud, PC. Oh, that comes out today. It's coming to cloud, PC, and Series console, whereas now it just says consoles. And then following that, they're doing a podcast that they've sort of bigged up a little bit, and so they're going to be talking about the future of Xbox. And this has led, of course, to a lot of people on the internet dispelling the end of Xbox. Not dispelling the end of Microsoft involved in gaming, but that they will just be switching to PC and that they're going to be done with consoles. I feel the need to tell you they're not going to do that. No, they're not going to. No, definitely not going to do that. I will eat one of my hats. I will genuinely take a big bite into one of my hats and post it on YouTube if they do this. If they announce this during the podcast, I will do exactly that. And I feel confident in saying that because it's not going to happen. They're just not going to do it. The brand is safe. I feel as though it's so crazy how many times I have to reiterate to people on the internet that Xbox is owned by one of the richest companies on the entire planet. That it's a company that almost can't run out of money. They just essentially print money. They're the biggest proprietors of the OS for all PCs. I think they're going to be fine, and I certainly don't think they're going to cut off the Xbox division when they've just spent almost $50 billion in their gaming division. And yes, I know that they have more hands in the fire than that, more irons in the fire than that, and they have the PC side of things, and that's what people are saying, is that they're just going to switch to PC only. And I just don't think that's the case, especially given that this is a investment into the gaming side of the company. I really don't think that they're going to be like, hey, we're going to cut you off a piece of the pie, a 48, or am I confusing it with Twitter? But tens of billions of dollars slice of pie, we're going to cut that off for you in order to buy, Activision. We're going to give you all of that money. But also, we want to kind of draw back on gaming. It's just not. No, it's not going to happen. They're so focused on gaming at the moment and building up that audience. They certainly wouldn't do it just after acquiring a games company for that amount of money. Why would they, spend all of that money acquiring the company, barely dip their toes into the company itself, and then go, actually, should we scale down a little bit? It's certainly not. And this is Activision that we're talking about, who, more than a lot of other brands, see a lot of their sales on console rather than PC. They wouldn't have gravitated towards a company that is so console focused and so, such a big deal on console if they were looking to close down their console branch. They're just not going to do it. Now, the other theory is that they may go multi-platform with all of their exclusives, and they may offer to add Game Pass to the PlayStation. I don't think so, but this one I can see being more likely. More likely than this, I could see like a timed exclusive deal, something like that. I'm really not sure about Game Pass, but this one is more likely. However, Why would that be an issue? That's awesome. I like the sound of that. I think that's great. Don't be doom and gloom about that. I know for a lot of people, their console is their investment, and they'd be annoyed that they lose their investment, and their console will no longer have exclusive games. Now, a lot of people would use this as a reason for them not going to multi-platform. They'd say they're not going to go multi-platform because then they lose, the only brief piece of exclusivity that they have, whereas with Sony, they do have exclusivity. Well, the whole idea is a pivot into, creating these game services and focusing on that more than focusing on trying to push consoles, which I can see that happening, and I do think it may, but I really don't think that they would talk about exactly the inside baseball, so to speak, during a public podcast, though they may talk about the multi-platform stuff if it were to happen. So that's more believable. But the idea of fully closing down the console brand, I don't like the fact that this rumor is even surfacing. I mean, firstly, because I'm just not a huge fan of the very anti-Xbox atmosphere online. It's very clear that there is one. We all know that. But also, I really don't like the fact that following, hearing about a bunch of layoffs and people losing their jobs and stuff like that, people would actively seek out to try to ruin people's confidence in the Microsoft brand and the Xbox brand, which would in turn just result in more layoffs. We don't want cascading layoffs building off of other layoffs. We want the opposite. We want them to be hiring more people and keeping jobs going. And it really does annoy me when people do stuff like this. And I know in doing so, it's a bit of a catch-22 because I have to defend the multi-billion-dollar company. But at the same time, I think it's more important that people get to keep their jobs. And if we're going around saying, this brand will be done in a few years, then people lose confidence, they lose their share price goes down, or if they're a publicly traded company, I'm not entirely sure actually. I think they are, but stuff like that happens, and then people lose their jobs, and I'm just not a fan of all of this hearsay leading to that. It's very annoying, and it's way too speculative. But anyway, those are my thoughts on that. Don't worry about it. Don't lose confidence. Your brand is fine, and I'll see everyone later.
The PlayStation is only $149, and you can also get leading titles.